morning, guys. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Breakfast with the Brooks. If this is your first time joining us, please make sure that you subscribe to the channel and also ring the bell so that you get notifications. Also, please share this out with your friends. Share this out so that they can come in and join us in the room. Want to thank you again for joining us this morning. We'll be getting started in about 4 minutes. Also, please post in the chat, in the comments, where you're joining us from and what the weather is in your neck of the woods.
Neck of the woods, that's Al Roker.
Your neck of the woods.
You can't steal that from Al. He spent 40 years on TV saying neck of the woods.
Let us know what the weather is in your neck of the woods. We'll see you soon. We'll see you guys in a few minutes.
In your country.
In about 3.5 minutes. Please, once again, share this out.
What's going on, everybody? Glenn P. Brooks Jr. here, excited. We are coming at you guys in about 3 minutes. We're going to go and talk about this last installment of Fixing Broken Fences.
Boundaries.
Part 6. It's been a long series, but if you are just joining for the very first time, I want you to put hashtag first timer in the chat. Okay? We want you to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Ring the bell so that you can get the notifications every time we go live. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, Lord, guys, hopefully by the end of the year, if we can.
So share this out. Invite your friends and your family and your cousins.
And your dog.
And everybody.
Like they say in Southeast D.C.
We'll be getting started in about 2 minutes, guys. Once again, if this is your first time joining us, please subscribe and make sure that you ring the bell so that you get notifications when we go. Ring the bell so you get notifications when we post new videos and when we go live. And also, please share this out. Share this out to as many people as possible. And we will see you in about a minute and a half.
For those of you guys who are just hopping in, this is Breakfast with the Brookses. We're going live in about 50 seconds. Wanted to ask everyone that if this is your first time, put hashtag first timer in the chat. If you're a part of the MAPS Relationship Academy, put hashtag MAPS Rocks in the chat. We're going to get started in a minute. Today we're finishing up our series on fixing broken fences in relationships, part number 6. And we're going to talk about some of the conflicts in boundaries, and hopefully we can help you today. Gonna be a tough one.
Gonna
get tight. What's going on, everybody? Welcome. Breakfast with the Brookses. It's going down, guys. My name's Glenn P. Brooks Jr. I am an author. I'm a speaker. I'm a coach. And sitting here next to me is the lovely light-skinned
Sheri Brooks Jr., author, speaker, and relationship coach. It's great to be with you guys today. I hope you had a wonderful week.
Yes.
I hope that Maybe the sun is up where you guys are. I know it's a little overcast, but
Yeah.
I hope you guys get a little sunshine. If not,
Get a little
make your own
sunshine.
sunshine.
Gray skies are gonna clear up.
Make your own sunshine.
Put on your happy face. Listen, guys, we got a whole lot going on, but we want to get into and wrap up this series that we've been in now, baby, for 6 sessions. Before we do that, just want to introduce ourselves for those of you guys who don't know us by now. My name's Glenn P. Brooks Jr. I've said that 1,001
we
times.
just do that?
Yeah, but I'm going to say it for the people that just showed up
okay.
on replay. I'm an author, I'm a speaker, and I'm a coach. And you see how she just crossed the line of boundaries?
Just did that,
I got you, but I wanted to say it again. That's my lane right here.
I'm sorry.
I'm trying to
stay in my lane.
I'm trying to drive in
I'm
my
stay
lane,
in my
bro.
lane. I'm going to stay in my lane right here.
I just want to let y'all know that if you want to join this madness that we do on Saturday mornings, we do it really, really in a functional way in our MAPS Relationship Academy. Sign up for a free discovery session at glennpbrooksjr.com and make sure that you get signed up and then when I can think of what I'm saying. You're being so silly this morning.
I'm sorry.
Stop being silly. Anyway, if you want to join the MAPS Relationship Academy, we'd love to have you. Come on, let's talk.
Well, if you want to
boundaries.
introduce yourself again, I want to introduce myself.
No, because you weren't just getting on me about introducing myself.
This is Glenn P. Brooks
Whatever.
Jr. I'm Sheri Brooks Jr.
how
We
she
want to
do that?
welcome you
I'm
to
not
our
talking to
channel.
her. No
We want to
more.
welcome you guys this morning. Hey.
Flag on the plate. Flag on the plate. Boundaries. Babe, we've been, all seriousness, we've been talking about boundaries for, this is our 6th session. And I don't know if you guys followed us all the way through, but we could talk about this for the rest of the year. Yeah. This is a deep subject in relationships. And I think the reason why, baby, is because people never really fundamentally understand how boundaries work, particularly in relationships. For those of y'all that may not have caught the first episode, we do want to encourage you to go back on our YouTube channel, catch the replay of all of the series. But in short, a boundary is simply a property line. It is where your stuff stops and another person's things begin.
So what do you mean your stuff?
In relationships, your stuff is more emotionally driven. It's things that you really don't see. It has a lot to do with your attitudes, the decisions, your behaviors, things like that, stuff that people are more in control of than they like to lead to believe. But a lot of times, if it's not something you understand, you will let your attitude or someone else's attitude affect your behavior.
Right.
And that's a boundary issue.
Right. And oftentimes what happens in relationship is that we give away way too much power to other people because we don't put up boundaries and we allow them their behavior or their misbehavior or non-behavior
misbehavior
or non-behavior to cause us to react or respond to something that should have never been in our lane.
All
we were
facts.
talking about earlier, me staying in my lane and Glenn staying in his lane. When you have boundaries up, you're able to stay in your lane because whatever they're doing is outside of your boundary, don't have nothing to do with you.
Right. It's like the person who is a neighbor and they are not keeping their lawn clean or mowed or whatever. That's within their guidelines. That's within their boundaries. And although it does present an eyesore to the neighborhood, technically you're not responsible for anything inside of their fence. There are ways to get them to comply with the neighborhood standards. That's what homeowners associations are for and things like that. But that's not your problem.
Right. It's not your job.
That's not your job to make them do right. And I think that when you get into that in relationships, baby, stuff goes sideways
right.
real
We're
fast.
doing stuff or trying to do stuff that ain't our job. So it's not your job.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's not, everybody with me, say it. It's not my job.
So listen, talking about jobs, and we're going to talk about what is my job. What is your job is to do a couple of things we're going to help you, particularly when there's conflict. I want y'all to put that in the chat. Conflict. That's a bad word in relationships.
Yes.
And a lot of times, I know for me, I grew up pleasing people in order to feel good about me. And so I would say yes to you when I really mean no.
Right.
And because the real deal was I had a fear of conflict or a fear of confronting. I had a fear of if I did something that you didn't like, I didn't like the feeling that I felt behind that.
Right.
And so therefore it would cause me to say yes when I really mean no, or say no when I really mean yes.
Right. And people typically, when you have a fear of conflict, is rooted really in a fear of rejection, a fear of abandonment.
Yep.
Because you're fearful that if I speak truth to this person or if I say something that they're going to be upset with me. They're not going to like me anymore.
Yeah.
And so because of that,
that
level of insecurity that we walk in, it'll cause us to avoid conflict. And the truth is that conflict is not a negative thing. Conflict is nothing more than having a conversation. Conflict is addressing an issue that might be a little bit uncomfortable, but being able to address the issue. It's dealing with, I like to call it going down the dark tunnel.
Yeah.
Being able to have those conversations that need to be had, is what conflict is. Conflict is not fighting.
Right.
And I think a lot of times we have this connotation when we think of conflict, we're thinking that it's going to be an all-out, drag-out, we're going to be fist fighting, rolling on the floor, knock down, drag them. That's not what conflict is.
Right.
Conflict is simply having a discussion with somebody that may have a different opinion, a differing view than you.
Sure.
And so you're going to get a little bit of resistance in the conversation, but it's a conversation.
I want y'all to put in the chat, conflict is simply resistance.
Yes.
Conflict and resistance have a lot to do with one another. But the problem is that when we take resistance personal, when we take resistance as an accusation or an affront on our character, what happens is that now we have the idea or thought, well, I got to fight back or I got to push back. And so today I want to help you guys understand that within boundaries, and we've talked a little bit about this, particularly with our MAPS Relationship Academy, there are several laws in boundaries, right? And when one of those laws are broken, it will produce a conflict. And so one of the things that I want you guys to understand is when you're having a conflict, whether that is with your spouse, whether that's with a family member, maybe it's your child, it could be your sibling. What I want you to do is, and put this in the chat, number one, if you're going to get proper resolution around boundaries, you're going to have to identify the actual conflict. Put that in the chat. Number one, you're going to have to identify the conflict. And we're going to talk about 3 different ways that's going to help you resolve these problems within the family dynamic. But when we say that, baby, I want people to understand that the dynamic that's being played out here is really centered around something that you may not be thinking about at the time. This is all about taking responsibility, right? And so when there is a conflict and it's properly identified, the ability to take control, to take ownership, if you will, over that becomes so much easier.
Right. So an example of that is, so if I'm a parent and so I'm frustrated or I'm feeling like my child is just blowing past the boundaries, but they're blowing past the boundaries because I have not been consistent. And so the conflict, the inner conflict that I'm having is that I'm not being consistent. And so therefore it's causing a conflict between me and my child.
Yes.
Because they're not doing what I'm telling them to do, but they're not doing what I'm telling them to do because I'm not telling them consistently to do the thing that I want them to do.
Yeah. No, that's funny. It's funny you say that because, I mean, we're experiencing that with Jackson, our dog.
Right.
And it is crazy. He's not here with us because he's in his crate.
Yeah, he's on a timeout this morning. He was on a
timeout this morning because he was doing the most. And what I realized is that I could allow him to frustrate me, or I can draw the boundary.
Right.
The boundary is, if you don't do this, this is what happens.
Right.
There is a consequence for you not behaving yourself. It is, you need to go in your crate for a timeout. Now, after we get off the show, we'll take him out of his crate. It's not meant to punish him. It is meant to draw a line so that he understands when you cross this line, there's a consequence involved. And so if you can identify the actual conflict first in you, and then the thing that's really going on, sometimes people are pushing past your boundary because of an issue that has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with them.
Right.
And if you can identify the legitimate place where that conflict is coming from, that takes us to point number 2. I want you to identify the need that actually drives that conflict. Let me unpack that for a second. Put that in the chat. Number 2, identify the need that drives the conflict. We talked about this with the men in the men's group. By the way, for those of you guys who don't know, in the MAPS Relationship Academy, we actually have 5 different group coaching platforms. We have one for couples, one for parents, one for singles, one for men, and then one for women. And these groups, we unpack this stuff like on a major level. So when the fellas and I got together last week, one of the things that we talked about is identifying the need that actually drives the conflict. So for instance, when a person is not getting what they want, it drives them to do things that they shouldn't do. So for instance, when you have children who are vying for your attention. The truth of the matter is they may act out in school because, truth be told, they are not feeling paid attention to.
Right.
Does that make sense? And so now what happens is that they cut up and they do the most really because they're looking for attention that they're not getting, but it's also producing a problem that is an issue for everybody in the room. So my job as a parent is sometimes to pay attention. Oh, you're trying to get my attention.
Right. What's the root of it?
What's the root of that? What is the thing that's driving that conflict?
And it's funny you said it because we've been, speaking of Jackson, we've been noticing that he does certain things to get our attention. Like he's nipping, but he only nips when he's trying to get our attention. He'll bark at us, and he primarily only barks when he's trying to get our attention. And so just like with children, I know for me, when I was younger, I started getting in trouble trying to get my parents' attention.
Yeah.
Because when I was doing good and doing okay, I was on autopilot. They weren't really that engaged. It was like, which they didn't need to be because I was doing good, but I wanted more attention and I didn't know how to verbalize that. So I started getting in trouble trying to get more attention, and often children will do that. And even in relationships, people will do things to get your attention. And will create conflict, if you ever been in a relationship with somebody and they just picking a fight out of nowhere and you're like, what the heck?
Right.
And sometimes it's rooted in something else. It's not so much that issue, it's that they were trying to get you to, and I'll be honest, I've done it as a woman. I've done it to get his attention because he's distracted or he's doing something else. And I'll just nitpick over something little just to get his attention, to get him off of what he's focused on.
Right.
I've done that in the past. And so, people do that. And so you have to be able to look at where's this conflict really coming from?
Exactly.
What is the need that is what is the need that's driving that conflict?
And I'm going to stay there for a hot second. And the reason why I think what's important, babe, is that if I am clear that you're nitpicking or maybe you're blowing something up and making it more than what it is a need that you're having, it will change also the response I give you.
Right. And
so more than likely, rather than respond tit for tat, right, I'm going to respond to the need.
Right.
And so if I'm really, really focused, I can figure that out without having to go there. You got something?
Right. And I was going to say, and what we do now is that, so if Glenn is being snippy, or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Right.
Or I'm being snippy.
Right.
Either way. You know, we've learned now to be like, okay, so what's really going on?
What you talking about?
You just seem a little off. You seem, like you're a little bothered. What's really going on? So what that does is it causes him to pause for a minute.
Y'all hear me say
exactly. Gives him a moment to pause and think about what's really going on. Also, that's me realizing I didn't do anything. So I'm not responsible for whatever you feeling, whatever you going through. I ain't got nothing to do with
whatever you got going
whatever
on.
You got going over there. I ain't got nothing to do with that because I didn't do nothing that's warranting that response.
Right.
And so I'm bringing that to your attention. It's like, you giving me a whole lot of energy. What's really going on?
No, and babe, and I think that's important for y'all to get, because if you can slow down because you have control of you, what it does is it takes the emotion out of the room. If I'm being a butthole and you decide to match that.
Right, I take the bait.
Absolutely.
I take the bait, and now we both going back and forth.
Now we're going back and forth.
Then we look up an hour later like, what the heck were we arguing about?
Don't even know. So what we've learned to do over the years is not take the bait. Put that in the chat. Don't take the bait.
Don't take it.
Don't take it. It's a setup. And it's a setup when you didn't, like,
I ain't do nothing. So why are they coming at me? They going through something. And that's my thing. I always tell the women, he's going through something. Whoever you're dealing with, they're going through their own issues that you may know nothing about. So if they come at you with energy that you know is not warranted, you have to remind yourself that they're dealing with something, and don't take it personal.
Yep.
We take the bait when we take it personal. When we're like, they giving me all this, so now you all attacking me.
So it's my fault.
I'm not taking that personal. You tripping. You need to go get something to eat. You need to take a nap.
Listen,
what's
y'all
wrong?
know that Snickers commercial, right?
That's real.
That's real. With that, look, listen.
You need a Snickers?
You sound like Marsha on the break. Marsha. So you just need a Snickers. So it's and so for me, that Snickers is the timeout. That Snickers is you saying, you know what, I'm not going to take the bait, which means I'm not going to feed the situation. I'm going to sit back and let you sort of get that out, play that out, while I'm going to go get busy about doing something else. Because at that particular point, I've identified the need that's behind the conflict. And one last thing I will say that is that when you identify a need, it becomes very easy to meet the person at their need level.
Right.
If you want to change and get resolution for conflict, I promise you, almost 100% of the time, if you can identify the need, people don't fuss because they ain't got nothing else to do. People don't argue because they have nothing else to do. People don't get up in arms over nothing. Generally speaking, there is a need that's going unmet. Why are you laughing?
Because usually when you're snippy, it's because you're hungry.
That is funny.
And so you're hungry, you want to go get something to eat.
Right.
And then the whole mood changes.
It'd be like, that big baby.
You could have just went in there and got something. You know the kitchen right there.
All you had to do is just...
You could just go in there. You could just...
It's right over, just... So guys, y'all hear us telling on ourselves, no, there is a need.
Right.
I'm hungry. Some people call it hangry, right?
Hangry.
It's like, nah, go fix your problem, bro. And stop being a butthole. I was gonna say something else, and just and be a jerk about it, and just get your need met, and we'll be fine. Last thing, I want y'all to put this in the chat. We're gonna talk about this. First, you have to identify the conflict. Secondly, and we're talking about how to resolve boundaries within the confines of the family. Identify the conflict. Number 2, identify the need that drives the conflict. And number 3, I want you to practice your boundary skills. Now, here's what somebody who may be tuning in for the first time and says, well, I don't know nothing about that. Go watch the first 5 episodes.
Number 1 through 5. So you
all the way through.
So you have to subscribe to the channel, ring the bell, get notifications, and go watch episodes 1 through 5.
And when that happens, here's what will magically happen.
You'll have the skills.
You'll discover some skills that you've never known existed. And so what I want you to do is go back and practice them.
Practice.
Oh, how about that? Practice. What's this about? This about practice? All I need is the game.
You better practice when you get to the game.
Listen, because here's what I know. If you don't practice and you don't master that thing in practice, you'll perform that way.
It's going to be a rough game.
It's going to be a rough game. You're going to lose, and you're not going to know why, and you won't know how to fix it. So I want y'all to do this. Your boundary skills, and I want everybody to say this, put this in the chat. Until you master this, my boundary skills are fragile. Put that in the chat. My boundary skills are fragile. And the reason why I want you guys to become very aware of that, and this happens all the time when we're coaching a couple, they're trying to implement something that they've not mastered.
Right. You just learned it. You're not going to get it right every time. In the beginning. It's going to take time. It's taken us almost 22 years.
To figure this all the way out.
To master this stuff. And even then, we still have moments.
Absolutely.
Ain't nobody perfect.
Absolutely. So what I want you guys to really understand is give yourself a break. Grace yourself, and then pace yourself. Put that in the chat. Grace yourself, and then pace yourself.
And grace your partner. Don't expect because they done watch episodes 1 through 5 that they gonna get it right tomorrow.
I done watched.
Well, you got the skills.
You done spent the last 5 hours watching 1 through 5. You need to get this right.
No.
It takes time to master a thing. I know that Malcolm Gladwell has he calls it the 10,000 hour rule. It takes 10,000 hours to master a skill set. Now, for all my scientific people, there may be some flaws in that theory depending on what you're talking about.
It takes time.
But the point of the whole book was that it takes time.
Right.
You cannot show up and master something out the gate. You have to give yourself time. So that's why I say grace yourself and then pace yourself. Put that in the chat. So again, when you practice a boundary skill, let me give you a quick example of a boundary skill. Sometimes the word no is all you need. That's a skill in of itself. It's a boundary skill. Knowing how and when to simply say no. And for people like me who are people pleasers by temperament, my temperament is that I will not tell you exactly how I feel or what I mean because I'm afraid of what you think of me. And that's no longer me anymore. But by temperament, it still can be me if I do slip up and don't put into practice what I'm getting ready to tell you. So now, when I say no, I am clear on how to communicate that Because at this particular point, although I want to, I will say something like this. Babe, I'm so sorry. I really would love to help you, but I cannot do that right now. Is there another time that you could give me? Because I would love to help you, but I just can't do it right now. I just said no. I used a lot of words to do it in the beginning because I'm not good at it. And so now my no just doesn't come out like that because I've always associated no with being mean.
Right.
And when you're a flamingo temperament or a chameleon temperament, these are the feeling parts of your temperament. If you're really high on those spectrums, oftentimes you will characterize saying no with being a mean person or being difficult.
Right.
And and nobody wants to be mean, nobody wants to be difficult. So you find yourself not saying no when you should. And I want you to kind of reprogram your thinking that no doesn't mean you're being mean. No means I can't do this and I can't do this right now. It doesn't mean never, but it does mean I can't do it now.
And it's funny, I'm thinking about, and so what we practice with our grandkids to teach them to accept no, because they're at the age, they're 7 and 10, and they're still, children are always reluctant to the word no. And so we're teaching that no does not mean never. No just means not right now. And that's when we tell them no about anything, as soon as we see the little attitude, we see their feelings hurt, whatever. Hey guys, remember, no doesn't mean never.
Yes.
It just means not right now.
Yes.
And not not in this moment, but it doesn't mean never.
Yes.
And so that no could turn to a yes at any time. But right now, the answer is no.
Well, let me tell you what the answer is right now. It is yes that I'm going to get ready to put that helmet on right there.
Oh, gosh. We're not talking about that. We're not talking about that.
Yes, we are.
No,
yes,
we not.
are.
No, we're not.
I'm getting ready to put that helmet on and we get ready to go get it in. That's what the yes question is. But listen, guys. I want to let y'all know that boundaries are easier when you practice them.
Yes, yes.
And a lot of you guys are really, really coming to the place where you're trying to implement new information without having mastered it. And so we really want to encourage you.
Right, and I just want to add one last piece. When you are erecting a boundary, when you've been in a relationship with a person and they're accustomed to trampling over your boundaries because you've never set them, you've never put them in place. Like Glenn said, you got to have grace. You have to remember that now, if you're saying no to things that you've never said no to before, there's going to be some resistance. They're not going to understand, and they're going to feel put off. So the worst thing that you can do is come out strong with your no, because you don't want to be mean. Yeah. And you may have to explain it a little more. Like when Glenn said no the first time, he kind of gave an explanation why no, instead of just like, for me, I mean, I'm always just like, no.
Yeah, she got no problem with drawing the line right there.
Can't do it.
Nope, can't do it. Sorry. And she didn't have any words to that, and that's because she has practiced saying no for a very long time. For me, I didn't start practicing no until well in our marriage.
Right, but I used to say it.
So if I'm 54 years old, and I just really started practicing saying no, 15 years ago or 10 years ago, it is something that is not as habit forming as it is for her.
Right, and in full disclosure, my no before was not a nice no.
Yes, your no was very
mean. And so I've learned
nasty, cantankerous, just mean. Okay. Mean spirited.
Yes, it was. I was not a very nice person.
Really nasty.
Okay, you finished?
I just thought I'd make the point.
But I have grown. I have learned how to say no in a nicer way and to say it in love versus just being because I'm a very direct person. Yeah. But being able to say it in a way that I'm not offending the person, I'm not, creating conflict in my saying no.
Absolutely, because the last thing when you're trying to resolve conflict, you don't want to create conflict while trying to resolve it. Right. That's these arguments that are on loops. Right. And y'all can't, it's 5 years in, y'all got the same argument and ain't nobody moved past it. Guys, that's all we have. We are super excited about the opportunity we have to show up every single Saturday morning.
We got some new things going to be happening in 2021.
We got a whole bunch of new things going on. Listen, if you are not a part of the MAPS Relationship Academy, you're going to miss out on an opportunity. We're going to grow with them in the way of helping people to unpack gratitude and pull the success power nuggets out of it, because there are principles when it comes to a mindset of graciousness that if you can Identify what they are, and you can implement them in your relationship. It'll help you make turns and change things that can't physically change right now, because it's going to teach you how to lean into something that's really going to give you a lot of power to be able to navigate through that.
Right. So if you're not a part of our tribe, we'd love to have you.
Yep.
Please go to the website here,
Yep.
GlennPBrooksJr.com. Sign up for free discovery sessions where you'll get to meet with Glenn, and he can talk to you and find out where you are in your relationship and how we can hopefully add value to you.
Yep.
And as always,
you can't get to any place of significance by
yourself.
Why?
Because we all need some help.
Y'all be good.
Y'all have a great Saturday.
And we will talk soon.